Yo, what's up, guys? Different kind of video. Going to look at all of the Legend Siege tournament in every server, look at their defenses, see what we see, review some of the defenses. Maybe it can help you a thing or two for your own guild to say, like, okay, this defense might be interesting, that defense might be interesting for us to run next season. I am expecting a balance patch pretty soon, though, because we're also at the end of an RTA season, so it will probably happen soon, but still, it could give you some ideas of things to run. So here we can see this one's actually pretty weird, like a Wusa on defense. I'm not too sure if that's even that good. They had a bunch of Wusas, but they also mixed it up with a bunch of like Anarchy, whatever, on that one. So these are the towers of Goat and the other server, I think Red Devil, because that's what the name says. This defense is pretty good though. We have the Manon. The lead is just for Manon, which is a little bit less, I guess, but Perna and Kiklit. Hard to Lucian, hard to Tiana, but is this not relatively easy to Bruiser? I'm not sure, because I feel like this is one of those defenses that Attract or Windy Lulu might just beat, but might be wrong on that one. But I think if you have proper enough of those, it would actually beat it. What do we see over here? We see some Nora plus Kiki. It's what we saw a lot. Nora Kiki plus another unit. I was trying to see if I could click on these towers also by going back in the time, but apparently that doesn't work. So I just have to go through it, like clicking whatever is open right now. So I can't see all of the towers. So I'm just trying to see as many towers as we can possibly see. But at some point I couldn't see that many. So that is what it is. But we also see a bunch of Nora Manons. Nora Manon LD5 is something that was pretty common as well. Tian Lang plus Molly Theomars is something we also seen in multiple servers actually. But yeah, so nothing too crazy except for Wusa on defense. These didn't load, so that's kind of annoying. But yeah, Wusa on defense. That's the one that I would say is most interesting here. This one is also slightly interesting. Iris, Theomars, and Manon. We do see a lot of Monons out there, but the combination of this I haven't seen yet, and I can actually think of this being pretty strong. Except for the fact that, would this be able to cleave in a certain way? I'm not entirely sure. I think that you could build some cleaves to clear this easily, but definitely not something you want to track the Windy Lulu. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Asia server. Moving on next to China server. China server is where we see mostly the heaviest LDs going on. So let's see what we have. We have a whole bunch of Manon Nora plus LD5, which I think is very strong. They also have the Dark Holly Berry with combinations such as more Perna and a bunch of things. But yeah, those are some... That looks dangerous. I haven't seen too many of the Dark Holly Berry on defense though, but those are interesting. For net force, they have Asher, Monty plus Trianas, which I think is a very strong defense. I don't think it is the strongest defense on net 4 at the moment, but that is pretty interesting. This one is also very interesting. Eladriel, Faye, and Manon. I'm really curious to see if this defense would do good, because these two units on the left, you pretty much don't see. And also the Wind HP lead is just for Eladriel. I guess it's hard to Lucian and that kind of stuff, but is it really that strong though? But then again, if you think about it, you don't really want to track the Windy Lulu this. You probably don't want to Tiana this. You don't want to Lucian this. And if you Bruiser this, you have to be careful of both Faye and Manon. So I actually think that this might be a pretty interesting defense. Like, I'm curious to see if that would work pretty well. And on the other side, we have a whole bunch of Manon, Molly, and Nora. I think that's a very strong, annoying defense as well. Because literally, you have Manon and you have Molly next to each other. Like, Molly is pretty much a Manon and Manon is pretty much a Molly. And then they complement each other as well. And Nora is also annoying. So I think this is a very, very strong defense. So yeah, a bunch of really good ones out there. We have more of those Asher Monties. Do we have on the other side? Oh, to add some more, we don't have Eladriel. Maybe their main idea was Nigongs, Faye, and Manons, and to add more on top of that, they just put the Eladriels. I think that was probably the idea, because it made more sense with a Nigong than with an Eladriel, in all honesty. But I think that this might actually be pretty strong. Issue is Faye is very RNG, but in the top of Siege, you're going to see like 95+% win rates. And if you get that one defense success, because of like a Faye going like ham, hitting like 3 ignore defenses. That is something that's very useful already. Then we go on to Korea server, Troublemaker against I'm not sure who. We see a whole bunch of Manon Mollies again, in this case with Carcanos. We see the Asher Monties with Fuki and Kinky. I think with Kinky is one of the stronger net 4 defenses out there right now. We see a bunch of Zeratus, Monties, and Mollies. It's annoying as well. We see a good amount of usage of Monties. We see a pretty much LD tower on that side. Nothing too crazy that we haven't seen yet. Irises, Sylvias, and Kinkies. So I think that was mostly what I could check. Oh, we also have this one. Kiki, Nora, plus Manon. Very strong defense. Whole bunch of Noras, whole bunch of Manons. That's something we see throughout most regions so far. The ones that I think are most interesting is the one from the previous one with the Fae. Like with the Fae Manon, that is pretty interesting in general. And then we also see Sierra, Noras plus Manons. And I think we have seen a bunch of those in other regions and things as well. And we pretty much have more of that, but then with Narshas, because why not do it premium, right? So yeah, that is that for Troublemakers Korea server, and I'm not sure what the other name is of the guild. Then we go on to Japan server. Japan server, we see more Sierra, Noras, but also Kens and then Theomars. That's actually a relatively free-to-play, like, I'm not gonna lie, if you're in a guild that doesn't have like all of the premium things, I'm not sure how good these defenses are, but this is a relatively free-to-play defense because Sierra is that long like release that most people will have her. Ken is free-to-play and Theomars is free-to-play. This is actually a pretty legit free-to-play defense, so I think that's not a bad one at all. That if you want to test something, maybe give that a try. I'm not too sure how good it would do against like a Tiana and that kind of stuff, but wouldn't really want to bruiser it, but into Tiana kind of stuff, it's relatively easy. This is also, they actually have a lot of free-to-play style of defenses because this is also just straight up free-to-play. Like Clara you can get from the guild shop, Theomars, Riley, of course you know where you get them. So they had a lot of those. Wow. So free-to-play defense in Japan server, that's actually pretty interesting. Like no LD5s, no Manons, just straight up like Claras, Rileys, and Theomarses. Interesting. And then a whole bunch of Sierra. So actually, Japan server is doing the most free-to-play stuff out there. Like it's non-LDs, nothing too crazy, pretty straightforward. Like literally every tower they had was this. That is definitely a strategy because at some point you're kind of going to run out of counters. But I do also notice in the very top end of RTA or very top end of Siege, people have like 5 Trianas, people have like 9 Lucians, people have like 8 Vigors and 9 Lulus and that kind of stuff. Like the game is running that long and these people focus that much on building 2As that they just have so many 2As to counter all of these things. So let's say if you have an account that has like 9 Lucias, 9 Vigors, and then 9 Windies, you're gonna get pretty far already. Like those kind of things just hit a lot of stuff. So, yeah, I'm not too sure if this is like super crazy and very good, or this is just hoping that one of them will RNG. Maybe they were hiding losers, but literally no one lost to anything. So I feel like that these defenses are not the greatest. Moving on to Europe, we have Aftermath EU against Aftermath Legends, and Aftermath Legends went for the name switching to fix Siege. I'm not entirely sure which part of Siege they're implying to, but it is also kind of a low blow, man. I like it that Aftermath EU put like fucking Vin Diesel's profile picture, man, like family. Like if Vin Diesel would not improve. Like you're literally like backstabbing your own family bullshit. Vin Diesel does not improve. Okay, let's just look at the defenses. Defenses we have some stuff we have seen throughout the season, actually used by Aftermath EU before. We have the Kicklets with Monties and Ashes. Pretty solid defense as well. We have a bunch of premium LDs, but more of like all over the place LDs on the side of Aftermath Legends, it seems. What do we have over there? Some Theomarses with Shazams kind of stuff. A lot of like random LDs. Like it's not specifically like one tower filled with LDs, what we have seen in some other servers. But kind of more all over the place LDs. Oh, here we actually have a tower that's more like specific with like the Sylvias and the Kinkies and the Irises and that kind of stuff. So there are a few of those, but in most cases, it's kind of like all over the place. Oh, this one is actually, but this is more of a backline Sierra, Nora, Theomars. We have seen more of that in other servers as well. So nothing too crazy in this one. Okay, this tower of Aftermath EU is also the tower we struggle with most. And that's just Manon, Nora plus LD5. I think Manon, Nora, LD5 is one of the stronger things out there right now. That's especially with those like Kikis, Onyukis. You can switch the runes, Swift, Vio, back and forth. Very, very strong team. So that is a very solid setup in general. Going on to the last serve, we have Skyfall against Malicious. Actually using the same net force as we've seen in Europe server. Let's see, what else do we have? A lot of towers weren't up. This one was pretty interesting as well. Iris with Manon and Savannah. Haven't seen that combination yet either. It is one of those combinations. Most of the time when there's a Savannah in there, it becomes like, oh, that's Leo foot or it's Tractor Wind Lulu foot or something like that. But in this case, with this specific setup, I wouldn't really dare to try that either. I think you have like some options to clear it, but it becomes somewhat tricky too. So I think that team is actually not too bad, actually. But then again, like everything Manon, like I'm not gonna lie, everything Manon is just kind of good. They also have Fermion, Mali, Theomarses. I'm not sure if those are too good or yeah, they just have 5 of them. So if you have 5 of something that you can build 5 of, then it becomes kind of good in the end. Anyways, bunch of Geldnirs with Leo Mace and Savannahs. Can be pretty decent as well. We have more Manon, Perna, and Savannahs. We see a lot of Manons. Like mostly in general, in most servers, we've seen a lot of Manons. Manons plus like interesting stuff. That is pretty much the name. We see a lot of Manons. We see a lot of Theomarses. I think that's pretty much what we can take from, and a lot of Noras. I think that's for net 5s, the most common units. And for net 4s, I think the most common thing we have seen is Monties, Ashers, Yanks and Kiklets we've seen like specifically, but not too much. But yeah, I think those are pretty much the most common units for the Siege tournament. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you maybe had like a few ideas of like, oh, we can actually build this in our guild or that in our guild. We've seen some free-to-play options, especially in Japan servers. I'm not entirely sure if they're that good, but I think they have some potential. So definitely, yeah, give it a go in your own guilds. Maybe see what works for you. And as I mentioned before, we probably will have a balance patch, so things might kind of switch. I don't really expect a Manon nerf right away because she's only been good for 1 season. Mostly they kind of wait 1 season, build or like give a few counters to that unit, and then the next season, if it's still stupid, which it is, then they're actually going to nerf it. So we shall see. They did the same thing with, for example, Oliver. First, Oliver was OP, then they added in Marcia and a bunch of other things, and then Oliver was still OP, and then they nerfed it the season after. So we shall see if that happens. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Guys, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.